You already covered that, Paul. What you're
Yeah,
gonna
I
do.
covered that, Rob, if you want to.
Yes.
So, the objective of this is to look at that fourth pillar of our product lineup, is hopefully provide you some confidence as you work with our Optiline family. As you look at growing your business, a lot of our customers, a lot of you on this call have your own farms and you run your own sprayers, and you're using these products along with your fungicides, your insecticides, your herbicides. We put a nice portfolio of products together here at Streamline that really complement those three. So today we're gonna focus on several of them in depth. We're gonna talk about the importance of adjuvants overall, what they do for us, and how they improve the performance and efficacy of your investment in the field. So along with that fourth category of improving spray tank performance, this also fits as you think about the crop cycle, our past 5, our past 6 that we have product portfolio built out for. When you look at a post-emerge herbicide pass, we have Optiline Complete, Optiline Exact, Optiline MSO. And then we also have Optiline 2D, which fits really nicely with the fungicide pass in pass 6. So just a couple business things I wanted to cover off on with this group before we dive in. January 20th is a pretty key date. We've had some price increase indicators from our manufacturers, raw ingredients, inflationary costs, logistics costs. So what we've done is we've held our price card through January 20th. So if visit with your DSM, call in here if you have questions on the products, but I really urge you to place an order prior to January 20th for products you're either going to try or products you're going to use. What that'll do for you is it will hold the price, the current price card, on that order. Also, if you decide to pay for that by the 20th, we're offering a 2.5% cash discount on that order. So if you're going to use products in the spring, that's a pretty nice APR. Really urge you to take a look at that. Again, January 20th, get your order in, lock the price on that order. And then also if you want to prepay it, you get a 2.5% early cash. So we do have a guest speaker with us today. Our guest speaker, I'm gonna turn this over to Rob McClellan to do the introduction. But Joe, thank you for joining us today. Joe is definitely renowned, and we're happy to have him as the person that has done a lot of work around the portfolio that we're selling. So Rob, if you would introduce Joe, that'd be
great. You already got a pretty good. So Joe is on the phone here. Thanks for your time, Joe. Joe's had quite a career in formulation chemistry and agriculture, and just overall research and development in agriculture. Over 30 years at Land O'Lakes and various flavors thereof. Built the spray tunnel, built the spray lab out there in River Falls, and really led to the development of all kinds of innovations that really help farmers kill more weeds, kill more bugs, kill more fungus, and do a better job with all kinds of integrated pest management issues. He's the architect of the lineup here, and we're glad and honored that he can kind of walk us through this conversation we're going to have today, Joe. So okay. I'll just turn it over and get out of the way.
Hey, good morning, everyone. And I think I met a lot of you last August over in eastern Wisconsin. But we'll dive into this, and we're going to spend a lot of time on Optiline Complete. this product, and first I want to talk about adjuvants in general. I think one of the things that under Paul's leadership we've helped to do is really try and simplify this adjuvant space. It's for my entire career, the adjuvants has been thought of the snake oil business of the ag industry. And after all these years, I'm finally glad to see that the biologicals have now taken over that space, and they've got to fight through that space now, and adjuvants are finally legitimate. But I think we've tried to tone this down to make it simpler. That I think over the years, had most distributors made this space simpler rather than more complex, I think it would have been easier to understand. So we're going to start with Optiline Complete, where after a lot of time and effort looking at it, finally after I retired, I thought of it differently, and I got some outside help that actually a former Monsanto chemist that went to work for an inert supplier, and we contrived and came up with this system where we can basically build a AMS surfactant-based system that also has an oil-based drift and deposition control in it. And why that's important, you have seen claims around drift control and AMS in the past. That has almost always been with polyacrylamide or guar-based chemistries that made great big droplets. And the advantage has always been to the oil systems is that they arrange how the spray breaks up coming out of the spray nozzle to create fewer fines without making great big droplets. So that's the big benefit to this system that you can portray to your growers is, hey, this is the best of the best. Even though other will claim they got something like it, nobody else has really successfully put one of these in the marketplace. So what that gives you is ultimate water conditioning and drift reduction all in one that increases your spray performance. So it's a convenience package, one tote, 1 2.5 gallon container. For probably 80% of your applications is really all you need. Unless you need an oil system in there, this one adjuvant covers most of your goods. Now there'll be others out there. There's products from Helena, there's products from Rosen Intact, there's a product called Hook. They all claim that they do all of these things, and they all do it very poorly or just okay. But this gives you the optimized performance of both water conditioning and drift and deposition. So that's the real thing. It's a convenience system that actually does deliver on performance. But we think it's a game changer. I said 80. I think the 90 probably includes if you're using an oil system at times too. So we'll dive into this, look at where we're setting. So this is the label. The best thing you can put for glyphosate and glufosinate is ammonium sulfate. Whether you put anything else in, if you put ammonium sulfate in there, you're going to improve performance. And so that's the first thing on the ingredient list. 30 to 34% AMS. The second thing we add, the humectant, that actually slows the evaporation of the spray droplet. We've got a right size spray droplet. You get it on the weed, or if you and it slows the evaporation, increases the amount of time for the glyphosate or glufosinate to get into the spray leaf. Then we've got optimized surfactant systems. Alkyl polyglucosides, again, optimized performance of both glyphosate and glufosinate. And then we're using a modified vegetable oil, in this case soybean oil, that creates that oil emulsion system. So 41.6% active. You'll see others that are claiming more than this. But most of the time they're lying because they're not, they're giving the credit to the inert, which may have 40-50% water in it. And they're including that into their active ingredients. We're trying to be honest with you and tell you, hey, this is what the solids are that are in this. And so we're trying to be honest with your growers and hey, these are all the active ingredients. And by the way, the rest is water. Next one, Rob. And I think the thing that I've tried to drive, I've worked for an industry group the last 3 years, trying to impress upon everybody the importance of putting the right adjuvants into the spray tank in every application and what the value is to it. We still have a lot of people that spray herbicides, even the dicambas, without an adjuvant system in there, even though it's required by law. Probably about 60% of the dicamba applications actually get the adjuvant system in it. So when you leave those adjuvants out, you're throwing away $12 to $36 of the money that you spent on that herbicide, insecticide, or fungicide. Get the wrong type, probably still works okay, but again, you still are leaving money on the table by not doing it right. And again, the other one, using just an okay adjuvant, buying the cheapest thing you can get. And we got a lot of people, especially in the South, that are buying really low cost adjuvants. They aren't necessarily what's in the description isn't necessarily accurate. And again, while they do a little bit of good, you're still leaving money on the table by not using a premium adjuvant. And that's all the Optiline products have, are all premium adjuvants that are supposed to optimize your performance with herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. Anyway, we always run into comparisons. And I've always said through my career is don't worry about what your competition is. You're selling the best stuff, whether I was all the way back to Winfield or now talking about your products. Don't worry about the other guy's stuff. Trust me, if they're lucky, it's as good as what you're selling. And very likely it's not quite as good as what you're selling. But you'll see some names out there that, and again, they're decent. It's better. You're better off putting something in the tank than nothing. But if you look at the Optiline Complete, it's going to perform as good as anybody, and it's going to be easy to use. All in one package is extremely easy to use. The closest to that, the lecithin-based stuff from Nutrient and stuff, they got decent stuff. Its drift reduction is not quite as good. It's just as easy to use, but it's just not going to perform as good.
Yeah. So when we've had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
No, Joe, we've had a lot of people when they're out, because there's over 3,000 of these products out here. This particular slide is a starting point, because I know out selling with some of you guys, you'll hear, well, I'm using smoke. Can I replace this with that? How, what do you want me to do here? So this helps you to start to think about it in a little different way. And I think this is this slide alone gives you probably a pretty good start at the major players.
Yeah. And again, all of these, Nutrient makes good products, Helena makes good products, but unfortunately, because of the price points, they're not using them at the correct rate. So you're fighting a losing battle because they're reducing their rates to meet a price point. And while their products might be decent if you used them at the correct rate, they're not doing that. I fought this my whole career through the cooperative system. The Class Act, the Class Act Flex were the best products on the marketplace, but we saw everybody had to reduce the rates to meet the price point, and so they decreased their value of them. And basically, Optiline Complete is Class Act Flex, inerts from Class Act Flex, plus interlock is basically what you're getting in this package. So you got the best, I consider the best of the best. And it performs, doesn't create a lot of foam. But if you look at the competitive deals here, we can compete with any of them. Just don't get talked into thinking you're out of line price wise because they're reducing their rates of their products to try and meet a price point. That's the big fight you got to do. So at the end here, if you got questions, please ask. But this is a good one to look at as you go forward. So I think the droplet size piece is critical to increasing your performance, depending on your spray nozzles. And one of the, I'm going to do a few more presentations for Ag Retail Association. Johnny Roberts and I are doing some things for Ag Retail Association. So you guys can probably look in on those as we go forward. We're going to do one on drift and deposition here in, I think, April. But the thing I want to hammer home is most of this flat fan spray tips, you got 20 to 30% of your spray that are too fine sprays. They're either dry up or they blow away. The biggest competition today, because of the price points, are the guar gums, polyacrylamides, but they create great big droplets, 800 to 1,000 micron droplets that are just too big. They miss the target or they hit it and bounce off. The oil emulsion systems, the advantage to those like Optiline Complete or the 2D, they right size your spray droplets. Even with a drift and deposition, drift control nozzle, like the AIXR, I think it's one of the best nozzles ever made. And it's going to come close to giving you to a 350 to 400 micron spray droplet. But when you put glyphosate in that tank, or you put Liberty in the tank, that micron size starts to go down. It creates almost doubles the fines coming out of even that good drift control spray nozzle. You put the Optiline Complete or Optiline 2D in there, it brings it back down to that 350 to 400 micron size drop. So that's why this is, the gift is you're almost giving them that drift and deposition product for free at the price points that you guys are able to offer to growers. Next slide.
Hey, Joe, I just asked a question for the team. What percent of the active ingredient do you think can fog away when you talk about that?
Well, it totally depends on what spray nozzle you're using. You know, I think we imagine that everybody's using a drift control spray tip. And so if you're doing that, like I say, if you use the AXR nozzle, and I think it's the best, it's probably on most people's turrets on their sprayer. If they're using it, it's kicking out about 5-6% fines. But when you put Liberty with that, or you put glyphosate with it, that virtually doubles. And so you're losing, you doing everything right, going the right speed, the right pressure, with the Optiline Complete in there, you're saving 5 to 10% of your spray. Now that's saying if they're doing everything right. And I think we all know, rarely is the sprayer run correctly. They're going too fast, it's bouncing, and so that number of fine nozzles created and lost goes up significantly there. And then again, you've got people that are just plain using the wrong nozzle and you got too high pressure. Then these things pay off even more. But if you're doing everything right, it's still saving you 5 to 10% of your spray.
Okay. That's a key point.
So to kill the weeds, you got to get them covered. And glyphosate, glufosinate, Enlist, They need good coverage to work. Even though in the Corteva will tell you you don't need anything with Enlist. That's not necessarily true. Again, especially with Enlist, if you put Liberty with it, it doubles the fines again. So even with that, that drift and deposition or the Optiline Complete is still very valuable to them. It gets the number of fine droplets back down to where it should be. Additional surfactant always helps, especially when you use the right surfactant. The AMS always helps. So with these 2-3 herbicides, these will increase your performance. And as the Enlist acre grows,
Sorry.
and they start to mishandle it, overuse it, optimizing their performance with Enlist is going to be critical to not creating weed resistance. And we can stay ahead of this if we keep spraying correctly. But wait and see. We'll see resistant weeds to Enlist just because, again, we're messing it up just like we do with glyphosate. Again, keeping a higher percent on the spray on the intended plants is critical. Most drift control agents are also deposition agents. And that's again in that ARA deal we're going to do in April. We'll talk in detail about this. I would always encourage everybody to always put a deposition agent in to their spray tank with everything, and it can improve by up to 20% active, especially with insecticides and fungicides, where they are telling you you want a finer spray. So you're using a flat pan spray tip, you're really increasing your activity tremendously. And we always talk about the off-target movement, but it's more important to get more herbicide, more insecticide, more fungicide on the intended target. You don't get caught on the off-target movement really, other than dicamba and Enlist now. Just get more herbicide on your plant is more important. Next slide, Rob.
Sure.
So the other thing we've done, the surfactant system is critical. Again, we targeted it for glyphosate and glufosinate because I think there's a rare spray application with herbicides that doesn't have one of those two in the spray tank, and so optimizing those. The surfactant system we're using in this has been used for over 20 acres, covered multi-million, probably approaching 1 billion acres of sprayed acres at this point in time. So you don't need any more NIS in this system. Next one. So I don't know if we talked about this in meeting in August, but I think those of us that are like me that have been dealing with glyphosate since I started in the industry, so 45 years, we put AMS in the spray tank. When I asked the question at the Meristem meeting and the end of August last year, I didn't have too many that had an accurate description of why you've been putting millions and millions and millions of pounds of AMS in the spray tank over the years. But it is critical. So write down why you think that is. Both glyphosate and glufosinate need the protection of AMS in water quality. Any water that's got sodium, calcium, magnesium, iron, they affect glyphosate and glufosinate performance. Back in my days at Winfield, even before Winfield, we did thousands of water analysis to determine how hard the water was and how much AMS you really needed in it. And almost all, I would say almost all the time you need at least 2 pounds of AMS in every water in the US. Rarely do you need the 8.5 pounds per 100 to the 17 that Bayer, formerly Monsanto, talked about all the time. Next slide. So here's what's happened. You're gonna have to trust me on, when you have glyphosate in water, it's a molecule that to be active has to have all of these components tied together to get across the leaf barrier and then get into the active plant. So it goes down and goes to the site, so it kills it. So here, this is essentially 2 molecules of glyphosate, and glufosinate works the same way. The chemistry is slightly different. And now if you hit the next slide, we'll add calcium to that. That's one of the most common ions. It's in spray water. So when you mix your glyphosate in water with calcium or other ions, it kicks off the ends of 2 glyphosate molecules. Does 2 things: makes them inactive, makes them too large to cross the leaf barrier. So essentially, you've deactivated 1 molecule of calcium, displaces 2 molecules of glyphosate. In really hard water, you can deactivate 50 to 60% of your glyphosate or your glufosinate in your spray tank if you do not put AMS or another type of water conditioner in here. And there's many other types of water conditioners. They're using acid-based systems primarily, or other types of replacements for ammonium sulfate. But ammonium sulfate is the most economical water conditioner. So it protects the glyphosate. The ammonium sulfate would tie up that calcium, so it does not displace those 2 molecules of glyphosate. So remember this, the molecule tied up by the calcium cannot cross that leaf barrier. So you're losing money if you don't put a water conditioner in your spray tank, and it should go in prior to the glyphosate going in the spray tank. There's a lot of controversy over whether that's true or not, but most of the good scientists, John Nelawai and Don Penner, that really pioneered all this use of AMS, would say you got to put it in the spray tank first.
So it's the position of the team here, if I'm not incorrect, Joe, that AMS is still the premium and absolute best way to condition water.
It is. The others will work, but again, because they cost more, they've pushed themselves into reducing the rates enough that they just don't work as well because they don't have enough in the spray tank. And I just had a long discussion because I'm getting some help from my former coworker, Greg Dahl, on this, and he's done a lot of work on this. And he said, because one of our challenges we're going to have with the ARA meeting, we got a lot of distribution that's selling a lot of these non-AMS water conditioners. So when they're paying you to do a seminar, they're not going to want us to badmouth some of their products very badly. And we won't, because we'll say, hey, if you use them at the right rates, they're still going to work. But rarely are people using them at the correct rates because they're too expensive.
So yeah, so that's always been the big fugazi is sellers out in the field mess with the rates to make the cost per acre look better. And that is not the game we want to play.
Correct. Yeah. The scientists back in the lab solved the problem, but by the time they got it to some poor seller trying to compete against another seller, he says, oh, my product will work at this rate. He cut the cost back to meet a price point. And that's one of the reasons, way back to my Winfield days when we created Class Act Flex, people were reducing the rate of Class Act so much that it was cutting the surfactant rate so bad. And that's why Class Act Flex was brought out, because it had more surfactant in it, and it still maintained that control even at the lower rates. And so that's what I've used in Optiline Complete, so we can get by with some lower use rates.
Awesome. That's just kind of summarizing there a little bit.
So if they're going to try and compete with this, I'm hoping that our price point is at a point that, we're going to be able to fight off those lower use rate to some extent. But again, you're going to have to put your salesman's hat on and say, hey, this is the best product on the market. We're telling you what the rate use, and ours is going to work better. At the end of the day, what a grower wants is a dead weed. And if we're cutting the rates on our stuff or their stuff, they're not going to get that. And I think the real secret is say, hey, if this is our bottom end use rate, use that or you're going to lose performance. And like I say, I think Paul and Rob, I think we're going to be at price points. You're going to be able to do that fairly successfully.
Yeah, I think from a sales guy perspective, some of you that sell seed might be thinking, hey, I'm not a nozzle head. I hear this term. I sell seed. Why do I need to do this? But here's the thing. We're out here with this Streamline lineup, and Paul and the leadership has built this platform. And a lot of these products that we're going to be selling in with the pre-herbicide and the post-herbicide and in the fungicide paths are going to work way better with these products with it.
Yeah.
I think there's three things from just a basic thing. Every farmer has to condition the water, rip the cuticle off the face of the weed, and reduce the driftable fines to maximize their investment outcomes and their spend to kill weeds, bugs, and diseases. So you have an Optiline Complete, the easiest, best way to combine all three of those things in one product. I tell you what, a lot of farmers will buy this because they want one less tote on the spray trailer.
Yeah.
That sounds like the dumbest thing ever, but I don't know how many spray trailers you guys have been on. When I'm out there, you can hardly walk. There's nowhere to go. There's so many totes. So don't forget about that convenience. And then the science in our program, I mean, and as these farmers you're serving them buy their own sprayer, I want you to get your head around this. Most of the time before the farmer brought the sprayer, nobody asked about the adjuvants. They just came with the product, their spray. Yeah. Now, fast forward, farmers and bankers love sprayers, farmers love sprayers. The farmer has a sprayer. Now they have an opportunity to debundle, demystify these costs, and people start asking questions. And you, as a farm gate seller or dealer, bringing products out to them, have an opportunity to help them break those prices apart and help them put more dollars in their pocket and kill more weeds. So it's really been an evolution of things. More and more farmers are starting to ask questions like, hey, wait a minute, why is that product $80 a gallon? Why can't we have something better for less? And you can help them do that. And it's just another great conversation to be on that farm several times a year.
And I think it really relates. I mean, I think most of you have been seed sellers for a significant portion of your career. They're expecting you to try and hand them the best seed variety to optimize their performance. I don't think it's a big leap of faith to say, hey, I'm trying to do the same thing on adjuvants. We're only giving you the best stuff here, and we're going to try and make your herbicide work better. And again, I think your competition in this market is going to come in and try and get it with a lower price point, or again, another all-in-one like Weather Guard Complete and stuff like that. And so I just think, hey, we're trying to give you the best thing to make your herbicides work better. And we think this is the best thing, just like I'm trying to do with the seed, in the seed space.
Yeah. So these would be two products you'll see a lot in the country. Weather Guard Complete. They made up a word called Lesitech, some marketing hack like me, probably. Mm-hmm. So
again, Weather Guard Complete is not a bad product if they use it at the full use rate, but you're going to beat them all to hell price point wise if they're using it at the right rate. but a low rate of lecithin is not going to work well. It won't work. I mean, we're at our 20 ounce per acre rate on the Optiline Complete. We're about at the low end use rate. That's about equivalent 2 ounces of interlock. It's going to work fine at that, but don't go down to 15 to get a price point, because you're still going to get the AMS piece, but the drift deal is going to go away from you. So you got to hold firm at those 20 ounce rates with glyphosate, and you really need to be close to 40 for the AMS on the Liberty acres.
Okay. So we did 2 of these.
Yep, I think we said
covered that. I think we got her done here, Paul and Joe. I'd love to open up now. Maybe talk a little bit about. We spent most of the time. We wanted to keep it really simple, Paul. Per your direction.
Let's
And
up to that slide 26.
Yeah. Couple more things in the portfolio we probably want to cover here.
Yeah. So 90% of your acres, the only other, again, take dicamba out of it for a second. If you're putting clethodim, a grass control herbicide in there, you're going to need the Optiline MSO in the tank with it. If you've got, if people are using some of the BSF products, you need Optiline MSO with some of their products that require an MSO. But those 2 products, the Complete and the Optiline MSO, should cover significant amounts of your acres. There's some exceptions, especially when you get to the wheat country. There may be some other adjuvants that don't want an NIS alone and don't want the AMS. I think the Optiline Complete would still work there, but it will the price point fit. But 90% of your acres in the corn, soybean, cotton market, Complete, and the MSO is going to cover your needs.
What if, could you just talk a little bit about crop oil concentrate? We've decided to go with MSO as the primary deal, and why that's a good decision.
We're using a high surfactant oil concentrate MSO. MSO has been proven, and that's in most cases soybean methyl esters is what they are. They are proven to move herbicides through waxy leaf surfaces better compared to the crop oil concentrates. In today's world, probably 70% of the oils used in the US are the MSOs. There are, because they're a lower price point, so-called crop oil concentrates are still utilized. Our friends at Syngenta with their mesotrione do not like MSOs, even though they're wrong. That would be a case if you're using a lot of Callisto, they may want a crop oil concentrate. If you've got a hardcore Syngenta rep that says, no, I have to have that because I don't want to cause leaf injury. Proven 1,000 times that they're incorrect, but it's on the label, and so they're going to argue with you. But I'm guessing, like I say, we could get it if you need it, but roll down to the local co-op and you can probably buy them a, case or 2 of crop oil concentrate if that's the case. Sell these 3 products and you're doing the right thing for everybody.
Talk about our dicamba product here, Optiline Exact.
That product is basically got your VRA, volatility reducing agent. It's got a polyacrylamide DRA, drift reducing agent, and it's got a non-AMS water conditioner in it. And so it meets all of the label needs required on the dicamba, both XtendiMax and what's the other one? What's the Ingenia product. So it meets both of their needs all in one product. I don't know how big this market is anymore. I know it's shrinking. I know the trait probably still hold, I think they hold significant amount of acres from the trait, but whether they're actually getting the dicamba on it is what I hear is questionable anymore. How many?
I think as we got one of the as we move west, I think we're still seeing quite a bit of dicamba, Joe, more than I was expecting anyway.
Yeah, well, they got good traits. I mean, they've got good soybean traits, and I think that still drives it. And I don't know. I assume you guys sell seed with dicamba traits in them, correct?
We do.
So this is the adjuvant you need. It's the only one you need. It covers all of the label needs. And if you get them, if you get more than 60% of your customers to actually put this in the spray tank, you're beating the industry average, which would be a good thing. So that's good for everybody if you can do that.
So Joe, this is Paul. I have a question about, it's a question I get a lot is we recommend, or what we like to see is a drift and deposition added in when we're applying a fungicide, you know, whether it's by ground rig or by airplane. There's been some questions about timing and arrested ear syndrome with surfactants. Any concerns, or do you just want to talk about what we have to be mindful of, if anything?
Well, I think, you know, what they up until, you know, if you look at the fungicide labels, they'll say no adjuvant. I believe it's just prior to tassel is the most dangerous time point. You know, as long as you're in that vegetative stage where they're doing the early fungicide application of, you know, R5, 6, 7, it should be in there every time. And while I don't believe that this adding the Optiline, what is the term
2D.
on the 2D, is going to cause any problems, you have a certain segment of corn hybrids that you just, every now and then under stressed weather conditions, you'll see some arrested ear, whether you put an adjuvant on it or not. And so that's why the industry standard is wait till after you see tassels on there, just quit in that window just before tassel until you got complete tassel out, just to avoid it. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys have seen arrested ear in your fields. I'm sure over your career you've walked some fields and seen them, and that's why the BSF and Syngenta, they aren't going to back you if you put this in there and you got arrested ear. They're going to throw their hands up and say, hey, it's all your fault. And that's why from an industry standpoint, even the big players have just kind of said, hey, let's just not do it.
I do really like Optiline 2D in the fall when we're spraying residue release and delivering our bacteria and microbial, just from the perspective of getting good coverage on your crop residue and penetration into either the stalks or whatever dead carbon you're spraying that on. And then in the spring with a burn down, I really like running the Optiline Complete with residue release. I think that's a really nice combination. So
absolutely, if you're putting glyphosate in that spray tank with the residue breakdown product, for sure put it in there. You'll see tremendous performance. And we are working on and down the road, we're working on a residue release one where we'll try and include that in there, but that'll be a few years down the road.
And residue release does have its own surfactant system as part of its carrier. So, you know, when we're putting that 2D in there, we're getting good drift and deposition down to the crop residue. And then we're just adding additional efficacy when we're using Optiline Complete with the herbicide. So
we've seen tremendous performance increases by doing it. So.
Yeah, I just thought I'd add that. I'm looking at the chat box and I don't see any other questions here. I think we've come to the end of this webinar. I want to thank everybody for participating in these. They will be available for viewing later. at the Rob Seco YouTube channel. So I would say by tomorrow, this will be posted up. You can access the first 3 webinars that talked about other products in our portfolio. Joe is, we consider him as part of our team. And so he's a resource for us as well. If you're interested in having a conversation with Joe, have some questions you'd like to ask him directly, we can facilitate that connection and get you answers to your questions.
Yeah, I would really love to hear what kind of competition you're seeing in this space to where you're dealing directly with growers that are spraying themselves. I'd like to see, who's going in there trying to sell them products. Are they buying online? Where are they getting their adjuvants from? And if I can help you position these products against them, I'd love to do that. So,
excellent. Well, Joe, thank you very much for joining us here this morning. Rob and Taylor, thank you for joining us as well. And again, to our Streamline Ag partners out there, thank you for your business. Remember January 20th, get your orders placed to lock that price, take advantage of a 2.5% cash discount. And again, thank you very much. And that ends this webinar. Have a great day.
everyone.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody.